Hello everyone, my name is Tim Sales. I appreciate being on tonight's webinar. What I'd like to do for you is basically walk you through the Ariix business opportunity, and it's a way for you to build your own business using the resources of Ariix. What I also want to do is that I want to teach you something that I've learned over many, many years here, perhaps 2 decades, of how to evaluate a network marketing business. And so let's just, I'm just going to jump in here. And my background, for those of you who do not know, I started out in the small town in Tennessee called Hickson near Chattanooga. And then I went into the military shortly thereafter and went into the Special Forces where I defused bombs underwater. I was out in the Persian Gulf on board the USS Missouri, also known as the Mighty Mo. And there was they would fly out a professor to teach us college courses at night. And so if you wanted to advance, you could take college credits at night. And so I attended one of these courses, and it was in personal finance. And as I was learning about savings and real estate and things like that, one statement that gentleman, that professor, stated in passing. It wasn't even any kind of a lecture or anything. He just said something in passing. And his statement was, to make good money, you either have to own it or sell it. I guess that gentleman should earn a commission off of everything that I've ever done, because that thing hit me, and I couldn't get it out of my mind. And then several years later, when I got transferred back to the States, I lived in an area called Indian Head, Maryland. It's where they hide all of the bomb squad guys. And so I was tucked away there, and I had wanted to go to settlement on a house. And so it struck up, and I didn't have enough money. And it struck up that, that phrase that gentleman said, to make good money, you either have to own it or sell it. And so I sort of went through the newspaper, and I was looking for something that I could sell. Now, mind you, I would have never fathomed in a million years that I, Tim Sales, would be capable of being able to build my own business. I wasn't in a space or a place in my life that I thought that I could do that. And so it was above my reach. And so I just wanted to sell something. And so I answered an ad in the newspaper. Long story short, 5 years later, I was making over $1 million a year, and really exceeded everything that I'd ever fathomed that I could ever achieve. And so I retired at that time. I spent the next 2 or 3 years playing, and then after that I thought I would become a passive investor. And so I looked at franchising to basically, I had the money to be able to pay the franchise fee. I would hire an employee to handle the various different franchise ideas that I had. And then I would pick up an extra $5,000 to $8,000 a month off of these franchises. That was my strategy. And as I began to study their business plan, now mind you, I'm not a business guy. I'm just a simple guy that stumbled onto something in network marketing. And so I basically started working at figuring this out. And I remember looking at a map and saying, you know, how do you choose a location with a franchise? And I figured out that whatever location I chose, I could draw a 20-minute circle around that, and that would be about how long somebody would be willing to drive to my location. And so any brick-and-mortar business is going to basically have about 20 minutes outside of their area for people to drive to them. Maybe if you have a really great restaurant or something like that, people will drive 30 minutes to an hour. But, man, it better be good. And so I thought, now that's ridiculous. And I was at the time, or a little bit after that, I was looking at a franchise possibility on the beach. And it just so happens that was right around the time the BP oil spill happened, and there were big balls of tire rolling onto the beach. And tourism was down 70%. And I thought, man, if I had a franchise here at that time, then I'd be toast, because, you know, a beach town lives or dies based upon the tourism. So, so instead, I thought, you know what, the network marketing industry has just been so good to me that I wouldn't want to leave it. I would rather help those people in the industry do better than anything I can think of doing. And so in 1997, I wrote a video in my backyard by a swimming pool called Brilliant Compensation. And all that video was me reciting about 10,000 presentations that I had done, and I got good at it, and so I just did that. And so I just yanked my company-specific content out of it, and I did that. Now, why did I do that? I did it because I wanted to raise the chins of the network marketers. Because as I examined the industry, there was a disease going on, and the disease is that people were apologizing or embarrassed for being in the industry. And I could not imagine in a million years how anybody could be embarrassed about something like that. And so I wrote Brilliant Compensation. Then shortly after, I created a training tool to help people realize that prospects are not targets, that prospects are real human beings that have dreams, they have goals, and they have fears, and they have concerns, and they have money problems, and they have family problems, and things like that. And that we should be much more compassionate and much more tuned in to what that person's going through in their life, and that I had contributed or attributed most of my success to my ability to actually, really care and listen very closely and to what was going on in that person's life, and to be compassionate for them. And so, so that training tool got a whole lot more legs than I ever thought, and it ended up all over the world. And so people would ask me to come in and speak at their conventions. And I did that. And then leaders would ask me to come into their field and do training, and I did that too. And corporations would ask me to do ridiculous things. They would ask me to fly and talk to their leaders on a cruise ship. And when I got there, they didn't want me to do that. They had promised a bonus check to all those people, and they didn't have the money to afford it. And so they asked me to make the leaders okay with that. And so, as you can tell, if you're on the inside of 200 different network marketing companies or their leaders or such, you will gain a lot of knowledge over that period of time, and I gained a lot of knowledge. And don't think for a second that I wasn't offered an opportunity or two, or 200, or 2,000, or 10,000, and that I wasn't offered money. I was offered a lot of money. Ridiculous amounts of money that for me to put my name on it. But and the reason that people would offer me so much money was because they had figured out that I was an ethical person, and that everyone knew that I was an ethical person, and that if I put my name on that company, then it would mean great things. And so as you advance in your awareness, and as you advance in your influence, then the cost of communication is very high. In other words, you can hurt people, you can harm people. And so I would, and never did, ever accept any sort of any offers whatsoever. Even when I was flying out to help this one company that was being attacked by the Federal Trade Commission, no, he was being attacked. That company was being attacked by a gentleman by the name of Barry Minkow, and Barry Minkow had other motives, and so he would short the stock, and then he would had a buddy at the Wall Street Journal or something, because they would release this article about the company USANA and try to drive the stock down. And so I called a buddy of mine who was in USANA, and I said, I'm sure you guys got this covered, but if you need any help, let me know. And so I ended up talking to a gentleman, and he said, Tim, let me fly you out, because what you're having to say here is very helpful, and I'd like to fly you out. And I said, no, I don't want you to fly me out. I'll come out on my own dime, because I'm an ambassador for the industry, and I'd really just like to help you guys. You see, if I had accepted payment for something like that, then I would be indebted to them. You see, anytime you're offered money, people don't understand that there's a catch on the other side of that money. And so I was never okay with the catch on the other side if I had no idea what the catch was. And so I would never do that. And so I flew out and I helped this company. And it was much like many other times I'd helped companies, okay? And so we got the job done. We got that guy put in jail for what he was doing. And now the media never came back and said, hey, you know what, we're so sorry that we wrote all those negative articles about network marketing. We didn't know that that guy was a scam artist and that he was scamming us. You see, they never do that. But so my job was sometimes dirty, but you don't get the credit necessarily, and I wasn't looking for the credit. I was just being an ambassador. Well, oddly enough, that group of people that I did that for ended up becoming very much a friend to me. I saw the way they operated. I saw their integrity. I saw the way that they treated their enemy, which was respectful. And little did I know that that entire team that I had worked with, pretty much, the president, the vice president, the chief financial officer, the gentleman who did so much of the international market stuff, they all reached down and grabbed their briefcase and they walked out of that building and started a new company called Ariix. And so, and that's the company that I finally said, you know what, this thing ticks off every single item that I would have ever wanted to research, ever wanted to prove before I would join a company. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. This is, I am not a kind of a person who would do something, if you can imagine the mindset of a bomb squad guy. They tend to, you know, my daddy used to have he was a carpenter, and he used to have a phrase that says, measure twice and cut once. And he's referring to wood. And, but in the bomb squad, you measure 50 times and cut once, right? In other words, this cut's going to really matter, you know? And so, and with that same kind of a thought process, I examined and evaluated this company. But I don't want you to take my word for it. I'm going to give you the criteria, and I'm also going to give you what I found when I was searching for that criteria. And so I appreciate you being on the call here. I have to do one elementary step, even though you're probably a network marketer, and you're probably familiar with the industry, and you probably have said, hey, this is a good industry. But I'm going to reference some things a little bit later on that I would have needed to explain this part in the way that I communicate it. Ariix is a network marketing company. And so let me back up a step and tell you my view of what is a network marketing company. And you're looking there at your slide there. And on the left-hand part of that, you'll see that there's a building there. And that building represents the company, the network marketing company. And then that company is going to sponsor, if they do it right, they'll sponsor one person. And the reason that that's right is because if they sponsor multiple people to the company, then they are creating competitors to the company. And so if they do it right, they'll sponsor one person, and then that person gets customers, and then he feels confident because he can get customers. Therefore, he can bring on someone else and train that person how to get customers. And then that would be a retail sales organization. Very specifically, I need to make sure you understand that. Because if I did it another way, if I came into the business and then I went out and found somebody and told them about a business opportunity, and then that person said, okay, what do I do? I say, well, you buy this kit. Okay, what do I do with the kit? You consume it. And then what do I do? Well, then you're going to find other people who you're going to dangle a business in front of them and tell them they need to consume the products, and find others who want to do the same. That is a wholesale consumption organization compared to what I described as a retail sales organization. Quite different. Quite a different kind of organization, as I'll get into a little bit later on. And so let me go ahead and advance, and I'm going to give you, as people look at network marketing, there are various different objections, as we call them, that come up. And one of those objections, I'm going to give you all of the challenges. I'm going to give you all the problems, if you will, and and then I'm going to summarize or get the sum of at the end of it. Number one, the biggest problem out there, whether or not you know it or not, is finding an ethical company that will grow and last. That's the biggest problem. And then and what you're looking for are products that are going to easily sell. You're looking for fair compensation, and you're looking for ever advancement so that you can continually, as a company, grow. You're also, one of the other challenges is finding a company that will provide real training. You're also trying to find customers. Now, there's not a business in the world that doesn't have to get customers. And so you're not going to solve that by going to any other company, all right? In other words, any other industry. Every business has to get customers. Otherwise, the Federal Trade Commission kind of says, hey, you guys are not really operating as a business here. And then the other problem is finding other business builders. As compared to, if you were to join another kind of business, then what they're trying to do is they're trying to find employees. So the problem over there is finding good employees. And giving everything, the only difference between this business and another kind of business, and I'm talking traditional business or whatever, the only difference really is that if you're trying to find employees, you will not know if they're good or not until you pay them probably $5,000, maybe $10,000. Okay, because everybody sits down with a beautifully created resume because, gosh, you can just pretty much put your name on the top of a template and print it out these days. And so the employer is looking at you and deciding what you're worth based upon what you made in the last place and how cheap he can pay. And so, but he doesn't know whether or not anything on that resume is the truth or that you're going to produce or not, and he won't know that for probably 2-3 months because you're going to be in the training phase and all kinds of stuff. So I would much rather try to find business builders that I do not have to pay until they produce than I would ever want to try to pay employees. I pay them until I find out they don't produce, and then I have to fire them and start all over again, and firing them is a problem too. So for those of you that wonder about another kind of business, I will always be in network marketing because I have evaluated and have done other businesses and know for certain that this will be where I will always be. All right. So let me dig in here and start explaining to you how you actually evaluate a network marketing company. And I can promise you that I am biased on Ariix, no question about it. But I also tell you that I wrote this stuff far before, a long time before I ever actually presented it here. You know what I'm saying? In other words, this was my criteria a long time ago, and it's my criteria today. And so you can earn an enormous amount by listening to this. So number one is, will the company go long term? Number two is, will the product sell outside the network? Number three is, will the company grow? Number four is, will I be compensated well for my efforts? And number five is, will the training produce a successful rep? So those are the criteria. And for 18 years, none of them checked all those off. And so for 18 years, I didn't do it. And then one did. Okay? And so now let me tell you something about a bomb squad technician. We drill everything down into that there are just steps. Okay, there's just steps to doing anything. And so, and once you know the steps, the other critical component is you've got to have them in the right sequence. Okay, you can't throw the bomb in the back of the truck until it's defused. And so you can't get that stuff out of sequence. So the order at which you do something is as important as the steps themselves. And so I tell you that you cannot mess up the order here. You will you'll have a very difficult time. All right, or be darn lucky, one of the others. All right, so let's dive into number one. Number one is it got to be your number one evaluation point. You cannot be successful in a failed company. It doesn't matter how much you work. It doesn't matter how much you bleed. It doesn't matter how much you sweat. Okay? You will always be in that scenario. All right? Because you'll ruin your credibility. You'll ruin other people's lives. It's a very difficult thing to get out from underneath it once you've done it wrong, okay? And so you have to choose a company going long term. The management team is the first place that you look, because companies themselves don't build, people build companies. And a company is nothing more than a container of individuals, executives, and employees who make decisions on your behalf. And so you have to know how good these guys are at making decisions. And because I worked for 7 years on the inside of several gentlemen, executives, who were not trying to impress me because they thought that they would ever recruit me. Okay? In other words, they weren't trying to impress me, so I got to see really who they were. And so when these guys all got up and left, in fact, let me just jump over a slide, and then I'm going to come back to it. What you're looking at is the executive staff right there. The gentleman on the upper left-hand corner is Dr. Fred Cooper. He was a mathematician at the University of Utah, and then he was hired by USANA to come over and basically critique and fix their compensation plan, and he did. And they realized that he was beyond brilliant, and so they hired him on board to run their IT division. He ended up walking his way up to being the president of the company. The gentleman next to him to the right is his very good friend, who was also the vice president of sales at USANA. He's got 2 decades in this industry. He is the field ops kind of a guy. He liaison between the corporation and the field, and so he was always in the hearts of all the distributors and so forth. The gal on the right-hand side, she came from, she was starting her own company called Pure, and boy, can this woman inject life into you. I am telling you, I've never been around anyone who had more of an intention to save the world and is, by gosh, going to do it. I mean, that's the kind of gal she is. And when I heard her, she was actually on a recruiting call trying to recruit me to be her master distributor for Pure when, long story short, she decided that what we had, she wasn't going to miss. And so she came on board. As a matter of fact, tomorrow night, we're going to do a webinar with that gentleman in the middle there, Mr. Mark Wilson. He's going to be the person doing what I'm doing right now. He'll have a completely different perspective than I do. And then the next day, Deanna Latson, Chief Product Officer, she's going to be doing the webinar along with another doctor to walk you through all the details of all the products. The gentleman on the far left-hand lower section is Riley Timmer. And boy, Riley Timmer, he's one of those that just get the job done. He is in charge of all the logistics. He opens countries. He makes sure that everything is handled from a getting the product to the consumer standpoint in other countries. He handles the logistics of how does somebody place an order in China, and then, you know, a week later you get paid for it, but it shows up real time in your back office commissions. Most amazing logistics nightmare I could have ever fathomed, but he did it over at USANA, and he basically just walks over to the new place, and so that's how we were able to open 9 countries in 1 year. 9 in 1 year. Ridiculous. Like, that is just, you know, impossible. And China was one of them. And I know companies that have been trying to get in there for 10 years, but we got in pretty quickly. The gentleman on the right-hand side, he is quite a bit, he is very lean in that picture. And if you had seen his before picture, you'll know that the products that we have to offer are incredible. All right? They really, really are, because he was quite a bit more than he is there. He's the chief financial officer, and I'll tell you straight up, no one gets a chief financial officer as a startup company. They don't exist, especially one who was a senior auditor at Price Waterhouse. He interfaced very often with Wall Street. He took many, many companies public. He did mergers and acquisitions. In other words, the guy knows how to count beans. He is not going to get this company in financial trouble. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to use money. He knows how to use resources like employees. He was pretty much in charge of running, listen closely, the most efficiently run publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange in the network marketing industry. In other words, no company was run as efficiently as USANA was, and that whole team got up and came over to start Ariix. Now you understand why I said you don't get that shot twice in a lifetime. Let me go back up here, and so when you're evaluating whether or not that company can go long term or not, you have to look at the decision makers, right? All right. So now you know how I looked at those decision makers. I was very much on the inside. The next thing to the right there is company vision. You got to know kind of where they're going. Are they in this thing to make $100 million, take some money out of the company, and then run? Okay? There's a lot of companies that have done that. I've seen juice companies just pop up, and then one day, and you think I'm joking, I am absolutely not. And then one day, they, the distributors wake up, they log into their back office, and it pops up a screen that says, we have discontinued network marketing. We very much appreciate your hard work. We wish you well in finding another company. They do that. They really, really do that. I'm not joking, because I'm the guy that gets the phone call that says, help, help, and so fortunately, I've been in positions to help them. All right. The next one down has to do with the representatives agreement, because just because the company goes long time or long term doesn't mean you go long term with them. Because if you look at the policies and procedures, that thing that you just sign and hand in, yeah, or the thing that you just electronically sign by checking a box, yeah, that thing. That is the biggest big print give it, small print take it away you've ever seen in your life. And those things are so big, they're as big as the Bible. And if you go through and you read some of those things and you're willing to go through it all, you'll find something in there that says that they have the right to terminate you. Boom. Okay, so then all of a sudden we're not in the same scenario, are we? Then you can't go with the company if they have a reason to terminate you. What you'll also, and by the way, I have dealt with probably hundreds who have been terminated, and these are normally the leaders who make big money. Because to the company, if you've got a big leader and that person has built his organization, he has completed the requirements of the compensation plan, and he now can retire. If you get the right compensation plan, you can do this. And he can retire now, and he does. And after some period of time, the company says, doggone, we keep paying $1 million a year to this guy. He's off and gone fishing in the Keys. I wish we had a good enough reason to terminate the guy. And then, they get a report or something like that that says that the IRS is investigating them. Boom, terminated. You think I'm lying. It's an actual case, right? So what the company thinks of this is that we keep paying this guy, but he's not producing anything now. He built it a long time ago, but why are we still paying him? That's their attitude. And so I don't like that whatsoever, and I have had a silent fight going on that I'd never made public, because basically every company I'd ever looked at had the same silly agreements in there. And I want you to kind of get a picture that that gentleman that I showed you a picture of, that Mark Wilson guy who was sitting in the center. I guess he was put in charge of selling me, because he and I met at a Denny's, and he began to tell me that they were going to go and start a new company. And he was asking me to come on board, not unlike many conversations I'd had in my past. However, he says, we'd like for you to be a master distributor. I said, no, you don't want me. I can probably refer you to somebody. There's some people that I know out there that would probably love that job, because I'm a lion for my people. I'm not a yes man, and you need a yes man in this position. And he said, no, we really, we want to talk to you. And I said, buddy, I fight for my team, and I am somewhat antagonistic towards people like you, these company owners. I'm antagonistic towards you. And he said, well, what would it take? And that was the selling line right there, just so that you know. That was the selling line for me. I said, well, let me tell you what it would take. You see, what happens here is that you're going to end up with $1 million of inventory sitting in your warehouse, and then you're going to find a guy like me to go out and build a sales team that's going to sell that inventory. And then we're going to do this many, many times, and then you're going to have a $100 million company, and you're going to say, look at the company I built. You didn't build that company. I took you from inventory to sales. And so you didn't build that. We built that. And so I have a real problem with the attitude that you guys have about us. And then you will have the audacity to step across into my team and terminate one of my teammates, or even me. And furthermore, you think you have the right, because you're going to sketch a comp plan down here in a few minutes of how you want to pay me, and then I'll go out and build a comp plan based on what you sketched me, and then one weekend you're going to come back with a compensation plan, quote, enhancement, end quote, that takes me from $30,000 a month to $3,000 a month. And so what makes you think you have the right to do that is beyond my understanding. And so you can tell that this was an uncomfortable seat at Denny's. But Mark said, what else? I couldn't believe he was still standing because he had already drafted something called the Bill of Rights. And in the Bill of Rights, he showed me his iPad, and as I scrolled through it, it read like the Declaration of Independence to me, and I just really couldn't even believe it. And I remember thinking, you know what, I can't let him know how excited I am about what I see here, because I had never seen anyone yet in this whole entire industry do something like that. And it was protection against termination. It was protection against compensation plan changes. It was protection against the company shifting to retail sales after the sales team basically proved the product line and are white labeling the products once the sales team had proven the product line. And I'd just seen it over and over again. And so needless to say, he sold me. And I will tell you it had much to do with the Bill of Rights because that thing is incredible. By the way, let me handle something that is a funny phrase for me out in the industry. People say you've got to wait until the company is 5 years old before you join the company, because what they're claiming out there is that you don't want to come into a company before it's 5 years old because it's too risky. Most fail. That's the phrase they use. And, you know, I remember sitting in an audience. I was getting ready to speak, and I was sitting in an audience, and I was listening to this guy talking about his company. I was a guest speaker there. And I remember him saying this, and I thought, I wonder what their spiel was before they were 5 years old. Did they stand up there and say, okay, now you have to wait until the company is 5 years old, so even though I'm showing it to you and it's only in its second year, you're going to have to wait and don't sign up until it's over 5 years old. In other words, what harebrained person would ever logically be able to have that communication? You know, like it blows my mind because it's ridiculous. Everybody hopes to join a company that's going to go long-term so that they can get in at the beginning of the next Amway or the beginning of the next Herbalife or the beginning of the next Mary Kay or Nu Skin or whatever they are, right? And so, no, it's not wait until it's after 5 years old. All right. So let me share with you number 2. And by the way, I am certain that the company will go long-term. And obviously, I say that by saying I bet my life on it because I was certainly willing to bet all of my income on it and have. So number 2, will the product sell outside the network? I did not want and would never have joined a single man or a single product company, even though there's tremendous focus. With a sales team, we've only got one product. There, you know, it's hard to get confused about anything. But if you can just picture that if you were to go into 7-Eleven, and 7-Eleven had one product sitting in there, and it was some juice, right, or it's some pill, or it's some, you know, something, right? You would be like, what in the world? How would 7-Eleven survive? It couldn't survive. And so I don't like that necessarily as a concept, and I don't like the ridiculously silly stories of there's a great wise man who was walking along, a dusty path, and he stepped on some fruit, and it squished, and he looked at it, and he, took it back to the lab, and it ended up having more umpty-umps than any other thing in the world, and you need these umpty-umps. It's just as the goofiest thing in the world, and so I didn't want anything like that. I was looking for a company that's very innovative, that's on the top of research, that's on the top of finding the very best service or the very best product or the very best technology, something. In other words, like I wanted them just to always be out there looking for the greatest things, because as I said earlier, we are business owners, and we want to build our own business using the resources of the company. And so we want a latest technology kind of concept. We want something that we can go out and get customers on and it be on the forefront, right? And so I didn't want something like that. And so I want to explain two other concepts, and one of those is the product life cycle of a product, as well as divisions. And let me start with divisions first, because I think that's going to help you the most. Let me go backwards just a little bit. I'm going to tell you a quick story about how this came to be, so that you are just rock solid in understanding how critical this is. Because if there were, once I got past the company and I get into products, if there were one area that I would say is what really makes Ariix an entirely different breed, not just a different company, but one of those innovative, rarely do you catch something like this early kind of companies, is that they see something that I explained to them about what they needed to do. All right, so I'm out there building in a skincare company back in 1989. I got to $20,000 a month in my first year, $65,000 a month by my second year, and then I got out of the U.S. military. So I'd done all that part-time. And then about 2 weeks later, I get hit with a Barbara Walters saying that we're an illegal pyramid scheme. Action is imminent. It's hard to recruit during times like that. It didn't matter how much I tried. I climbed in my car and I drove all over the country where I had teams, but no one showed up. And if they did show up, they certainly didn't bring prospects. And so I thought, man, just no one will build. And so I grabbed one product out of the entire product line that we had, and it was a nutrition product. Everything else was skincare. And so I pulled this product out, and the name of the product was Interior Design Nutritional. And it was just one product. And so I took the distributor agreement, and I just put a piece of tape over the top of it, and I wrote Interior Design Nutritional's distributor agreement. And so that was the way I began to recruit. And I got a phone call from the company one day, and they said, Tim, you're the only guy in the company growing. What are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. Because I knew that it was wrong, but I could not survive in any other way. And so I ended up telling them what I was doing, and they said, you got to stop that, but what can we do to help you? And I go, it's like we need a new company. And so we ended up figuring out that we formed a corporation called Interior Design Nutritionals, and then in small print, wholly owned subsidiary, and then the name of the company. And so we were off to the races, and we absolutely knocked it out of the park. And so then that funded them to continue their legal pursuits, and we were, basically completed all of that and continued to grow. And so let me tell you what I learned out of that lesson, and that I think everybody has been schooled by this lesson, but no one has learned from this lesson. And that is, you never saturate a product in this industry, ever. It's never happened in over 50 years of the industry. But you do saturate the name of the company, and you destroy the name of the company. Okay? So that's the two things that are the nemesis of this industry. Okay, so you end up on 60 Minutes, and you just get knocked out of the sky. If the company gets old and people have already made their decision not to join that company, then it is said to be, quote, saturated. Whether it is or not doesn't matter. It's the perception. And so if what we do instead in this company is that the name Ariix is not really the thing on the top of the flag, and so it's not the target, then what we will have done is we will have insulated ourselves, if you will, from this ability for a news company to just, knock us between the eyes, baseball to the forehead. Okay? So that would be a substantial reduction of risk as a company. And so that's one of the things. So now let me explain to you what I was going to show you. See this mall on the slide? Look at the way it's structured. You've got an anchor tenant on the right-hand side. Let's call it Saks, Fifth Avenue. You got an anchor tenant on the other side, and the people pull up and park on either side of the mall, right? And then they're running in between the two locations, and as they're running in between, they get all these boutique shops as they going towards the other store. And now let me contrast something else. And I don't have a slide for this, but I want you to picture walking into a Walmart, and every single product is sitting on the same floor, no walls in between it. The only thing that differentiates your product lines is a sign that sits up above it that says automotive, toys, children, groceries, and so everything's on the same floor. And so there's not really any uniqueness in terms of specialty or anything like that. It's just a sign. But if you look at the mall, you'll notice that these things are divided by walls. They're divided by concepts and specialties and so forth. So the way that I pictured the correct network marketing style of a business would have been that you create an extremely unique nutrition kind of company. And the reason that you always want nutrition in skincare, by the way, is because they're consumed daily and they're consumed by everybody, pretty much. And so that creates a strong stability in terms of your product. And so if you were to build the anchor tenants, get them good and locked in, you would also be able to create a little bit of a boutique environment. So let's just say that we started Healthy Baby Academy. And Healthy Baby Academy would help mothers have healthy babies, because when my wife got pregnant, I began to wonder whether or not birth defects are something that's, is a curse or something, or is it something that you actually cause? And so I discovered that there's only two ways to do something like that, and that is to be deficient in something like B vitamins or whatever, or you got toxins in there. And there's not a single baby born today that does not have cleaning chemicals in his bloodstream. All right, I know that sounds really, really wicked, but and it is. And so we decided that after all the research that I had done, that we had to share this with people. And so, when I was talking to Mark, I said, I've got a vision of something that I really want to get done in the world. It's not so much a business to me, it's just something I want to do. And so we ended up figuring out how we could monetize it, spread the word, create a crusade out of the thing, and so that itself would be a division or a brand, if you will. And then healthy financial, stock trading, real estate investments, LLCs and incorporations, asset protection, all of that kind of stuff. We could also have SlenderX brand, which we do. And the SlenderX brand, or Slender Eyes brand, the Slender Eyes, which is IIZ at the end, it represents the entire brand of products. Slender X is one of the products that we have. And so when you look at this from a division, and in the center you see purity water filtration, and so that would be targeted towards people who want to save Earth's drinking water, and boy, does it need to be saved. And so with that as concepts, then it would attract a group of people who would want to just build purity or just build Healthy Baby Academy. In other words, that's their focus. And so they would join and they would recruit people into that particular business, and then they would sell products to people who want that kind of product. All right. And so that would be far better than me selling a juice out there, and if they didn't like the taste of the juice, then I can't give them anything. And so I found that it, number one, not only insulated from being shot out of the sky, but the other thing is that it allowed a different breed of people to come in to build a network marketing business. And then there was one other thing, and I'll show it to you in a slide a little bit later on. Okay, so in our nutrition side, we have a product, all right? So everybody has vitamins and minerals, right? And so there's no sense in doing something that everybody else has because it's really just a commodity. And so if you're going to have a commodity, it's cool as a consumption product, but it's not cool to try to go out and market it because they say, I can get those at Costco for half the price. And so instead, what you've got to do is have something unique. Our uniqueness on these are they're genetically modified organism free. And if you don't know what a GMO is, Google it, because it's very, very damaging, and has been proved to be very, very damaging despite what the company Monsanto tries to do. And so we went to market and we created $32 million in sales in our first year with basically those products right there. And we didn't even have the Restorex on the end, which is a detox product. All right, and so we have a lot more products than that. But I just want to give, this is an overview, this is not detailed. On the call on Thursday, you're going to have Deanna Latson and another doctor talking about our products. The next one was Purity, which is a water bottle. It's basically a bottle that is portable. And so I went in and started doing due diligence on what's going on with water. This is part of my Healthy Baby Academy thing because I kept seeing my wife drink water. And so I said, boy, that would be horrible if that stuff wasn't good. So as I started doing research every day, I was giving my wife more and more depressing news. And so basically what I figured out, and you got to understand, 6 months of research trying to figure out because they would find some contaminant in the water. And I would see it in a news report that they found Prozac in the water. And I'm like, great. Now all of us are crazy. Like, are you kidding? And if a person's trying to get pregnant, but the person next door to them is taking birth control pills and then urinating, then it's going to end up in our water. In other words, I was trying to figure out how did Prozac, how did heart medications, how did like a water, a deck treatment chemical, in other words, you know what makes wood not rot, how did that end up in the water? And so I was trying to figure all this stuff out, and it finally occurred to me. And that's what I created. This is an infographic. I had to cut it in half because it's going onto a website. And so right at the top, you've got industry and manufacturing, and then just above it, you have rain and snow. Okay, so when it rains down, it basically takes absolutely everything that industry makes, and it pushes it into our drinking water. And then that water goes into a water treatment center, and what their intent was 50 years ago when they designed these things was to kill bacteria and parasites and various other bugs. And gosh, that's quite antiquated because that's not the real stuff that's hurting us. By the way, do you know what bacteria is? Came from poop. And so whether it's an animal or it's people, that's the reason they have to hit at the water treatment center, they have to hit that with a chemical, normally chlorine, and it has to soak in there. And so what it does is that it basically kills the water. And so it's not valuable to us in the way that water is intended, which is bubbly and rolling down a mountain hill, bouncing over rocks, and rocks are what gives us our minerals. And so as it's bouncing down the rocks and so forth, it's creating electricity, actually. And it's in that rolling of the water and that electricity that creates it to be something that is extremely healing to the human body. It's actually an antioxidant. And so, but after it's sat in chlorine for a while, chlorine, if you know anything about chemistry, chlorine actually steals electrons. In other words, the very thing that makes it valuable. And so it's wet, but it's not good. All right, so we got a problem out there with drinking water, and who's going to fix it? If you think that you've relied on somebody else to fix it, and they're going to get the job done, well, then why am I talking about it? They would have gotten the job done. All right? And so quit looking around thinking that someone is bigger than you. There's not. If you're aware enough to see it as a problem, then you just got past the ball, okay? And doggone, I wish I hadn't seen this, because my life was fine when I was drinking that dead water in bliss. And then, of course, what happens to it afterwards is that all of that contaminants, no matter where it comes from, no matter, in other words, look at your jeans. They're blue, right? They're not blue. They're white. And they were dyed that way. They were dyed blue with benzene, which is cancer-causing blue stuff that is dumped in the water, as if that manufacturer owns Earth's water. How rude. Okay? Happens. Atomic energy. What do you think how do you think they cool those boilers down? They flush water straight from the river. Why do they always wind up near the rivers? It's so that they can flush that water up inside there and then rush it back down. There's radioisotopes in that stuff. All you have to do is look at the people who have an extreme increased risk of dying of cancer, who are just slightly downstream of those things. Okay, so all this is just so logical when you think about it, but no one ever taught you to think about it. And so, does it really matter if a water bottle company sticks their bottle underneath that, or if tap water sticks their water bottle underneath that? It doesn't matter. And so quit thinking that water in a bottle is somehow more healthy, because the bottle itself is more toxic than the water that comes into the tap. And so that's the problem, because the plastic bottle is actually made from petroleum, and it's got bad stuff in it. Okay, you can tell I'm really passionate about this, because I got a lot of knowledge on it and understanding of it, and I know that this thing is going to be one of the biggest crusades that Earth is ever going to have. What does a water bottle do? And by the way, our next printing version of this will have purity written on the bottle. So if you just look at that glass of water, those are some of the contaminants that are in there. And so there's a filter that's built into the straw, and then it reduces the up to 99.9999. For those of you that are very technical, that's a 4-log reduction in the amount of contaminants. So, and specifically, that one is for bacteria. And so, so this product will sell outside the network, I promise. This one right here is SlenderX, and that is our brand for weight management. And this is a list of all the products there. And then one of those products is SlenderX. Let me just tell you about weight loss. I was not interested in the shake group. Okay, it just is not something that I was interested in because of the yo-yo effect afterwards. And I knew 3 principles of fat loss. Never really had an enormous problem with it. There were times that I would get bigger, but didn't have a big problem with it. It really comes down to knowing and understanding 3 things. Number 1 is how much you eat matters. Really, it's logical, right? If you burn 2,000 calories in a day, but you eat 3,000 calories, you're going to gain weight. And no 2 ways about it. Doesn't matter if those extra 1,000 calories are vegetables, you're still going to gain weight. That part of it is really a mathematical formula. The right side of that is what you eat matters. And what you eat means that if you burn 2,000 calories and you eat 2,000 calories of Butterfingers, then you're going to gain more fat. Why? Because the body, when it sees carbohydrates, it burns carbohydrates instead of fat. Right? That's the way the body looks at carbohydrates. It looks at carbohydrates as, oh, times are good. Let's burn carbohydrates and store any excess as fat. Because, you know, when we don't have any carbohydrates, we need to be able to burn from fat storages. And so what you eat matters. And then the last one is how much you burn. You can increase that by walking. You can increase it by running. You can increase it by building muscle mass so that you burn more calories every minute of every day. All right, so that's the formula. You can't change that It's absolutely proven that that's the way that it works. And every doctor, and this is what I love so much about what we're doing, is that if you were sprinkling fairy dust over the top of your product and claiming that you're going to lose weight because of the sprinkling of the dust over the product, then you look like a fad. You look gimmicky. And you're not going to get a doctor who's going to go, wow, that's interesting. Because they're going to say, just eat a balanced meal, just do this or whatever, okay? But here's what I know about these three little sections that I just showed you. And that is, the only people who get success with that are people who have incredible discipline. And the nickname that I have given SlenderX and Accelerate, those two bottles right there, is liquid discipline. And I'm not kidding you. And it's not because it tastes awful and it causes you to not be hungry. It does reduce your cravings for sugar. There's no question about it, and carbohydrates in general. It works, and I'm going to save this for the technical people because it works so darn well that I don't have to be technical. I can just have conversations, and I'll tell you exactly. Well, let me tell you a little bit. What it does is that you put 2 drops underneath your tongue. They did a clinical trial to prove this thing, and I'm so glad they did because everybody is under such confusion about it. On group number 1, what they did was fed them the recommended diet. And it's 1,250 calories, lean protein, good vegetables, reduce your carbohydrates down. Not destroy them all, just reduce them down. 1,250 calories is a lot of calories for a diet. Okay, so group 1 ate that. And on average, they lost 3 pounds in a month. Not bad, but kind of boring. And then the next group, the only thing that was different was that they used the Slenderize brand of products. They put the drops underneath the tongue. And that group lost 13 to 15 pounds in a month. Now, I lost 23 pounds in 3 weeks. Whoa, what? What did he say? Yeah. And I'll tell you the way I got it. Number 1 is that because of the because of the SlenderX, I didn't have the cravings. I had a motivation in Tim. Right? I'm not joking. I was motivated to see whether or not this worked or not. But when I step on a scale every day and I lost another pound, it really drives my motivation. All right? And so all of that was working. And I knew that I'd taken a before picture and I was going to take an after picture one day. I don't know if I'll show it to anybody, but I was going to show a picture. Right? And so it kept me driven. All right. And so it's pretty remarkable stuff. And next one, as I explained, Healthy Baby Academy, this is in the design phase. We have the doctors, OBGYN specialists, and all kinds of doctors who are have taken basically our vision and are now writing all the various different modules. And so I don't have a time on it, and I wouldn't give you a time if I had the time because we grow by divisions. And when that one's ready, we'll let you know. Now let me explain product life cycle, and then I want to share with you that it is also a company life cycle. So anytime a product comes out, I don't care what it is, it launches, they go through the development, the cost and all that, and then they launch it, and then there's a growth curve. During the growth phase, you're able to make a lot of money because of the margins that are built into the product. Okay, so if you have an innovative idea like this SlenderX, we're not a shake company, right? Like, how boring. It's a commodity. Everybody's got shakes. Those things started back in SlenderX. They started back in, what was that company? Slim Fast. Man, that thing, my mom was on that diet when I was a kid in elementary school. And so when you look at what the drops are doing, it's very innovative. And so when you've got a product like that, you have margins, right? Like how much does an iPhone 4 cost versus how much does an iPhone 1 cost? And most people out in network marketing, they're selling iPhone 1s or iPhone 2s, all right? They're not selling innovative stuff. So during this growth phase, you've got real high margins. And then in maturity, is when everybody has figured out that you got a great idea over there, and so they start knocking you off. They start, you know, basically creating their own or something similar to it, and things like that. And so you can't sustain that kind of growth, and so it begins to decline. And then there's really just a fighting for shares. The competition is completely on a price basis at that point, and it just continues on. I remember when I was in my company working, there was Excel Communications, and there's, in fact, Brock King is someone that I've been working very, very closely with over the last few days and weeks, and you know, spectacular kid. And what I call him a kid. He's not really a kid, but to me, you know, he's got that eagerness, he's got that hunger, and he came from Excel. And you got to understand that when a deregulation happens in any industry, there is great margins in that initial phase. But here's the problem with that type of a thing. The energy that you get, doesn't matter who it comes from, it's the same, right? It's just the difference in the name of the company that sends it to you. Telephone, the line is the same. It doesn't matter how much the companies try to tell you that AT&T is different than Verizon and so forth. It's by and large about the same. Maybe they've got an extra tower, you know, cell tower in the mountains or something, but by and large, it's the same. And so the only thing that you can ever compete on those things with is price. And I assure you, in network marketing, you can sell coat hangers, you can sell anything. But what you want to do is never be in the price game. You always want to be in the value game. You want to be in the visually, emotionally consumable products. That's the game you want to be in, meaning visually you watch a change. After you take the product, you see a change. You see a change. That's insignificant. It's emotional to you. In other words, you've tried, you've hurt, you've had pain, you don't want it anymore, and then it solves a problem for you. And then consumable, of course, is so that you get paid continually on a one-time sell. So you sell one time to a customer, and they keep buying from you because they trust you, they trust the products. All right? So that's ideally what works. And so when you get into, and I'm not saying services are bad, and so I won't label it as a service. I'm labeling it as a commodity, because it doesn't matter if you're selling shakes that everybody else has, you know, and you just spin it a little bit differently. You call it a challenge instead of a diet, right? And so you've got to, you know, do a bunch of marketing hoopla in order for anybody to take recognition to you. And so it doesn't matter if it's a service or a product. It's still what you're looking for is not to have the commodity game going on. All right. And so, because in Excel Communications, what happened is that deregulation of telephony put big margins in telephone. And then as it slowly began to have new competitors into the game, and by the way, Excel just exploded onto the scene. And then as other phone companies, Ma Bell broke apart, and AT&T became you know, a force to be reckoned with, if you will, because it basically became a competitor trying to get their customers that they used to have. And so so them and Sprint and some of the other ones really did a great job in reducing those margins. Great for them, horrible for Excel, because their compensation plan was based upon those fat margins at the deregulation point. And so anybody who would join an electric company that was electric only is, you know, I mean, that's a suicide attempt, you know, because you've got to look at the history of every time network marketers have tried to do this, then deregulation does happen, and then the margins come down. And as the margins come down, then they have to stuff those margins with something else. And so they grab training tools and stuff it into the margins, trying to make the comp plan work still. And then they're going to do a dangerous thing one day, and they're going to grab some of that starter kit money and shove it in there. And that's at the point where the Federal Trade Commission says you're a pyramid scheme, because you cannot pay to recruit. And so therein lies the problem with that kind of industry, and that's why I'll never be in those. Now, I would not mind it being a small division in the mall, because as long as you have the stability of the whole company and everyone is being honest with you, right? I have the slogan in Ariix, and it's called "The Truth is Good Enough." Now, the company named it, you know, a little bit different, unleash the human potential for good. But in my view, the truth is good enough. In other words, they treat us like business partners. And the business partner would say, hey, you know what, our margins are coming out of this particular division. And so what we're going to do is that we're going to have to lower commissions on all of those people. Otherwise, you're going to lose the customer. Instead of lying to you saying, everything is great. No, it's not what we're going to do. We're going to be honest because you're our business partner. And we are your business partner. Okay, so that's the way that the company sees us. Okay, so this growth, this life cycle has the same issue with every company. In other words, every company will go through this, but the maturity, that dark green one, the maturity would be considered in our industry the saturation of the name of the company. Doesn't mean they're saturated. In other words, I'm not saying that they're saturated. So don't anybody ever quote me on that because I don't feel it's true. But the perception is that. So the idea that I brought to the table and the company is doing is that as we build the company brand of Nutrify, it's going to have its early adopters, it's going to have its growth, it's going to have its maturity, and it's going to have its decline. But if we have an innovative group in the corporate side as well as some creative marketing people out on the distributor side, then we'll continually be able to recreate that curve right there with every new product in that division. SlenderX would come out, which it has, and it's going to go through an explosive growth. Purity is going to have an explosive growth. And so we can just continually create this in multiple companies. And so what I'm really trying to say to you is there's no reason why we can't have a Nu Skin size company inside of our umbrella. It means that we can have a Visalis size company inside of our own company. We can have a whatever. You get the idea here. A.O. Williams size company, or Primerica, what it is, in our financial division. You understand? There's no reason why we can't have that, but it would have the different identities. Yum Yum Brands is the example that I will share with you. You've probably not ever heard of Yum Yum Brands, but they own Taco Bell. They own Long John Silver's. They own a lot of restaurants. So what they perfected was opening restaurants. Not the same restaurant, so it's not like franchising where they got really good at opening McDonald's. No, I'm talking about they got good at building restaurants. And Ariix, the company, the umbrella company, is going to get good at opening network marketing companies. And so this is going to revolutionize this industry. Now, why hasn't somebody else done it? It's because they can never get the training right. And I'm not about to share with people how I know how to do that because that's what I had to do with that experience that I had. And so that's why I'm very, very confident. And all I can say to any competitor that's listening to this is lots of luck. All right. So number 3, the rest of these go a lot faster, by the way. Number 3 is you've got to determine if the company is going to go long term. And I'm sorry, whether or not it's going to grow. Once you determine it's going to go long term, then you got to determine whether it's going to grow or not. Because there's so many thousands of companies out there that just do a little tiny peep squeak kind of volume, and they'll never explode onto the scene and become a giant. And I've done a lot of research on this because companies would try to hire me to come in and boost up their sales. And so I'd look at it and I would say, the problem is that you guys don't have any mega leaders. You don't have any big people. Those kind of people that just, they reach up and lasso the moon and pull it down and hand it to their wife, and say, here, babe, or the wife does the same kind of a thing. In other words, there's nobody who's got that just strong drive. And so, and companies grow fast based upon the leadership. And what I finally figured out, and it was an odd thing that I figured out, is that it tends to be when the company has, in other words, company meaning is the container of all the executives, when they tend to have a very ethical group, they will end up driving and attracting really big leaders. And that seems to be what it is, as simple as that sounds, because it's leaders who drive the massive volume. And so we did $32 million in our first year with just those little supplement products you saw there. But they're unique. No one else has them. I can't find any in Whole Foods that are GMO-free. You don't find them because it's just very, very rare. But if you're taking GMO products in a supplement form, you're getting a concentration of, toxic chemicals. That's what you're getting. Because all GMO is that when they splice in a bacteria into the DNA of a plant so that they can spray oodles and oodles of pesticides on top of them, and it won't kill that particular plant, but it'll kill the weeds around it. So it's a ridiculous idea. We also, as I said, open those 9 countries, and you see those there on the screen. The fourth thing that you have to determine is whether or not you're going to be compensated well. And I'll just give you just a real fun thing on this one, and that is that all companies pretty much pay out about 50%. Some are able to be a little bit stingy with their money, and so they only pay out 40% or something like that. Some offer you 60%, but what they really pay out is 40 or 35. And since they all pay out around that basic amount, then what's the difference in comp plans? Well, I'll tell you, it's a lot. And what makes it a lot is whether or not the company designer, in other words, the comp plan designer, whether or not they put a whole bunch of tripwires in there that prevent you from getting to the money. And unfortunately, if you don't know how to look at comp plans, you will not find these things. It's only the gurus that can even see them because they experienced it somewhere else. Okay? And I'm going to let you in on it. But I'll just give you for those of you that just want to know it's a great one, I'll tell you that I was looking for 3 things. Number one is that can we retain people on the comp plan? Because if you can't retain people in the business, then it's going to unravel from the bottom up. And so they handle that by saying you get 4 people and your products are free. So if you get 4 people on $100 a month, then you make enough money to pay for your $100 a month. You get the idea. Now, I know a company, a juice company, that you have to get 28 customers or distributors in order for yours to be free. 28, okay? And so there's no retention strategy ever employed at that company. The second thing I wanted was really get out of the gates money or fire your boss money. In other words, how do you go full-time? And the way you go full-time in this company is that you basically, if you can just picture a peace sign, and you build on your pointer finger, you put about $14,000 a week of volume in that leg, and then your middle finger, you put about $14,000 in that leg, and you're making $2,000 a week. Okay? You're making $2,000 a week, and that can normally send a person doing full-time. And then the other thing that I was looking for is that the long-term retirement money. And most comp plans are not designed to let you retire. And so you have to be really stingy, right? In other words, if the company knows that we're talking to people about how to build something so that you can retire, but then they write things in the comp plan that you don't realize it until you've got a team built, that you realize that you can never retire. And so I needed to attract those people out there who had built big sales teams but couldn't retire. I needed to show them, hey, if you do it again, you can be able to build up to where you can retire. And so that one is quite substantial. So I'm going to switch applications real quick here, and I'm going to sketch this for you if technology will actually work for me. Hang on just 1 second. All right, so if I can just get somebody to send a question or something like that and just let me know whether or not it's actually up. If you can see a different application in front of you instead of that PowerPoint, that would be awesome. Thank you. What we've got here is that what I just described to you about the peace sign and things like that, I'm going to come back to that. The first thing I want to do is that whenever you see somebody draw a circle, I want you to know that when I draw a circle, I don't see it as a 0. I see it as a human being who has a dream and goal to own his own business, and I'm there to help him. Okay? So the word V, volume, is out there, and when I said if you hold out a peace sign and you build $14,000 of volume in one of those fingers, then you get something. And so I want to just describe what is volume. Volume is made up of really 3 things. Number one is your retail customers. And so when you go out there and you get retail customers, then they count towards your volume. When you yourself are a wholesale consumer, you're getting the products at wholesale, and so you're a wholesale consumer of those products, and that's very, very logical because you couldn't sell something you yourself hadn't tried or were using, right? So it makes logical sense that we'd want to be consuming the products. And then the third one is made up of what I call exploratory volume. And that is that you're listening to this, and you know, maybe something intrigued you. Maybe you said, man, I need one of them water bottles when I go camping. Maybe you said, gosh, you know what, I could lose some tonnage here. Maybe I go on that Ariix, right? So when you have that in your head, you'll want to try products. And that's exploring the business. All right, and you'll buy a kit because the company has put together a kit. There's little kits that are cylindrized kits. There's, you know, bigger kits or smaller kits that are purity, and then there's bigger kits that are a cross-section of the whole package, right? So that's going to be like the mall where you get a little bit of everything in there, and so that you can evaluate all of it, right? So these things right there, they're called kits where people try. And those are one-time sales as opposed to your retail customers who hopefully they're reoccurring, and your wholesale consumption is hopefully reoccurring. All right, so that right there represents volume. Now, what I described to you earlier where I showed the peace sign, you're going to think, well, this is a binary. No, it's not. Okay, there's two kinds of real compensation plans out there. Number one is called a binary. And what that means is that, that you bring in a person there and a person there. And then you can add someone here, or this person here can add somebody here, and the same on this side. Okay, so it's got two organizations going. The benefit is that you get to build infinitely deep in order to make up that $14,000 of volume. In other words, you can go 6,000 levels deep, but as soon as you hit $14,000 of volume, then it kind of cuts off right there. All right, but you get to build infinitely deep. But you don't get to build infinitely wide. You only get two. All right? Very significant, because that is the exact difference between the next compensation plan that's out there. And that is a uni-level, is what it's called. I'll never understand why in the world it's called that, but it goes like this. Is that you bring somebody in, and then you bring somebody else in, and you see that as I add people this way, I'm going infinitely wide, but I don't get infinitely deep because I'm only allowed to get a number of generations deep. So I get, you know, this would be my second level, my third level, my fourth, and then it cuts off, right? And it might go 5 levels or 7 levels or whatever. But I can go infinitely wide, but it's the only thing that I earn on is the volume that's in between who I sponsor and 4 levels deep in this example. Okay, so there's infinitely deep, but not infinitely wide, and then there's infinitely wide, but not infinitely deep. And so what is Ariix's compensation plan? It's both of these. And so we do infinitely wide and infinitely deep. That is what our compensation plan. And we have a number of patent pendings on this particular comp plan, because when somebody figures out what we're doing, and some have, they just look at it in awe. It is incredible, and we are the envy of the industry, because everybody wish they could have gotten or created or figured out how to do all that we do. Not only do we retain people because of the slick way that we did that opening thing where you just get 4 and your products are free, because anybody who's really knowledgeable in this industry knows that if you get people making as much money as they're consuming, they will not leave you. Make them a lot more than that, and you know, they're going to tell everybody about you. And that's the whole strategy. So I pretty much already showed this to you, but I'll just communicate it again visually, is that you build an organization like this. And so every time you sponsor somebody, you're basically putting them in one of 2 places in the beginning, because this is the way that it works. What's the real value of building a business like this is the concentrated effort that everybody is building down one line or the other. Okay? That's the real advantage. and then it's going to hit a point down here to where they've got $14,000 of volume in the week and $14,000 of volume here, and then you make $2,000 a week of income. But what happens next is what makes us unique. And so what that is, and I'm just going to run down here real quick and grab another color, is that as soon as you do that, you can now build right here. And instead of having to build two, as I just described, two legs that have 14,000 of volume, you build two legs, but they only need to have about $7,000 of volume in each side. Okay, and so the two of those combined together of $14,000 of volume makes you another $2,000 a week. And so, in other words, you had to do half as much to make the same amount of money. And then if you go, oh, wow, I like that, let's go out here and do it again. And so then you do the same thing again, and you're making another $2,000 a week. And you do the same thing again, and $2,000 a week. So that's the infinitely wide and infinitely deep. All right. Pretty sweet, huh? Yeah. It's like two combined together. Exactly. Okay. So now, what the company also did, I had this real problem, and the real problem that I have is I never work comp plans. I almost don't care the way they're designed because I work people. Because, you know, I may have, let's just say I'm working down an organization and I find someone like Todd, or I find someone like a buddy of mine named Steve, or I find somebody like Brock, right? So I say, hey, I want to help this person. I want to work with this person. And I hate it when I work in that person and then all of a sudden, like let's say I find somebody like in a uni level, and I find them down on my 6th level or something. It's like, oh, bummer, man. I don't get paid on that. And so I will go work somewhere else, right? I don't like that. And so the company gave us the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Others have done this, but not the way that we do. Okay, so this right here, I'm going to try to just copy all of this so I can show you something. This right here, instead of building it off to the side, then you can build it down here. In other words, you can continue to work with a team even though this organization, if you will, has, let me get that thing back. Even though this organization is kind of what they call optimized, you can still keep working down it and make another $2,000 a week when you build these two lines. And so it's pretty incredible that you get to continue working down the line. We call it leapfrogging, and we just keep going, person after person after person down the line. And so, like I was just talking with Chris Doyle, and he saw what our strategy has been, and he's like, oh, wow, I want to do that. And so he starts picking team members for it. And so it creates a lot of camaraderie when you're building your organization. Right? All right, so does everybody get that? That right there is called base pay. Remember this name because I'm going to use it in my second little statement here, base pay. Okay? So you can build as many $2,000 a week income base pay quads or groups as you want. All right. So I'm going to delete all of that, and then I'm going to show you the next part of the compensation. Okay? So now there's a confusing thing that people sometimes don't understand, and I got to just make sure you're clear. Otherwise, you're not going to see how beautiful this thing is. So as you're building, okay, and so let's. I'm going to just put a smiley face here, and that's you. And so you sponsor somebody there, and you sponsor somebody there, and then you put somebody here. Now I'm going to change the color of this real quick, and I'm going to say that this person right here sponsored somebody here, and then they sponsored somebody here. But then you turned around and you sponsored somebody here. Okay, so everywhere you see a red, it represents level 1. Even though you put them down the line here, they're still level 1 to you because you personally sponsored them. It doesn't matter that you put them underneath one of those second level people, one of those gray people. Doesn't matter, because it's still your personally sponsored person. And so then you could say, oh, okay, I get it. And so basically every gray color is a level 2. And, you know, we could just keep on doing this just so that you can get the picture. And let's say that this level 2 person here, they sponsored a green one. All right, and so, and then that green one sponsored somebody under himself. And so all of the green ones represent your level 3. Okay, so every time you get a red, number 1, in other words, every person you personally sponsor, I better get the red back, then you are going to earn 15% of their base paycheck. And every time there's a gray one out there, then you get to earn 10% on their base paycheck. As many base pays as they build, all right? And then for the green one there, you get 5%, and you get 5% all the way down to the 7th level. Okay? That's a lot of people, because if you were to just take, I better get the colors right. If you were just to take everybody and just think about how much you've ever sponsored in any organization, right? And so, so like when I first got started, I sponsored 28 people, right? And then if any of those just got a couple of people, right? So it would begin to go like that, right? And so that's my 2nd level, and every one of those has a 2nd level. And so by the time you get down onto the 7th level, I can tell you that it's a lot. It's a whole lot. So it's a very, very profitable. These are just a 2. We've got a car bonus that pays you up to $2,000 a month. We call it the saving bonus, though. We don't call it a car bonus because we don't care if you buy a watch with it. We don't care if you buy a car. We don't care if you donate it to your church or if you want to send purity bottles over to Africa. We don't care what you do with it. It's yours. But we pay you an extra $2,000 a month. And there's several other ones. Now, this is significant because what I want to tell you, I mentioned it earlier about how companies will create these tripwires, and you don't know they're in there. Okay, and again, it's big print giveth, small print taketh away. And so let me show you these sneaky people. So let's say that somebody else was describing this to you of another company, and they say we pay matching check bonus 5% down up to 8 levels deep. 8 levels deep, and you say, wow, that's better than you guys. You guys are only 7 levels, right? But let me show you something. What they say is up until your first bronze person. What does that mean? That means that if this person right here, let's say, became a real builder and they built a massive organization, not even massive, just mediocre, then you get cut off right there. In other words, you don't get 8 levels on that. You get 8 levels on all the duds in your organization. You don't get 8 levels on all the studs. Now, isn't that horrible? Isn't that tricky? Right? When I was reading about this, I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me. They actually want you to not make leaders. They want you to have a mediocre group because then they don't have to pay out as much money. All right, and so you got to watch those tricky ways that they write that stuff. You know, it's kind of like when I read about it, I always say, oh man, that's one of those. You've got to place your order on the 5th Sunday of the month of February, and it's got to be between 12 noon and 12:02 noon, right? Like it's like, come on, just pay me what I'm worth here. Pay me all my production. That's the way that I feel about it. All right, so let me jump back over here now I've shown you the compensation plan, and go to the next section, which is my final section. The last one is, will the training produce a successful rep? And now I've got to take you back up to the 3rd slide that I showed you, which was this picture right here. Because in my opinion, this is where the heart enters the business. And it's a requirement of mine to build a successful company. Now, it's the 5th one, and so it's way down the list. It doesn't have as much importance as number 1 and 2 to me. However, and I put it down the list because even if the company doesn't have it, then I could do it. I could still do it. All right? So here's what I'm going to explain to you, what I have to say about this one. What that gentleman with the gray suit does to help that lady in the green suit often is the culture in the organization. It's the culture. In other words, how much training is provided, how much care. Because, see, when that gentleman right there in the gray, when he joins that company, and the company has everything that he needs, going long-term, product sales outside of the network, it's growing like crazy, you know, it's got it. It's going, right? The comp plan's good. What does that individual most need now? He needs help. And so whether or not the organization has the culture of real training or not is going to make or break whether or not these people are successful. And so I'm going to go back to my discussion with you about how I was trained in the bomb squad. Everything has a sequence. I'm sorry, everything has steps to it, and everything has a sequence to it. And I was an F- student in high school. They passed me because I could wrestle, but I was an F- student. So how in the world did I get to where I could defuse bombs? It was training. As a matter of fact, what's the difference between an infantryman and a Navy SEAL? Training. What's the difference between a high school basketball team and a college basketball team? Training. What's the difference between someone who sings in the shower and someone who sings on Broadway? Training. Talent too, but training. It really, really is. And when you really look at it, that's what differentiates ordinary from extraordinary is training. All right. And so that very much has to do with the culture of how does the leadership work with their people and how does it get passed down the line, because today we've got some advantages that we haven't had before, and the advantages are we can use technology. But at the same time, it's the culture of how we train. And so I'll give you an example. We're doing an event up here in Park City, Utah, and what we're going to do is that we're doing drills, all right? And these drills is that, you know, on the first day we got some doctors coming in, and we're just talking about how to lose weight. All right, the doctors are talking about how they're helping their patients lose weight in their practices, and so it's completely a product event. It's for people who want to lose weight, and it's for people who are chiropractors and doctors and wellness people and things like that, personal trainers, and so that's who it's for. As well as people like you who look at it and go, I'd like to learn about that. And then the next day, we're going to tell you all the objections that you'll ever get when you're trying to sell SlenderX. And then the person who's handling that objection is Deanna Latson. Deanna Latson's our Chief Product Officer. And she's going to say it in such a way that does not get us in trouble with the FDA, which is a product claim. And so she'll tell it to us, and then you're going to turn and you're going to get knees to knees with the person sitting beside you, and you're going to do drills practicing your delivery until you get it right. And that's what real professionals do. They train until they can't get it wrong. An amateur will do it until they can get it right once, but a professional will train until they can't get it wrong. And so it's the culture. And where does that culture come from? It comes from me. When I told you I was a lion for my people, now you understand what I was talking about. Is that I know the best trained team wins, always. All right, so now I'll go down to the training and just let you know, as soon as you come into the business, you're going to go into the back office and you're going to have training modules that I created. And so you're going to learn about Ariix as a company. You're going to get introduced to every single one of those people because I set them down in front of a camera and I said, you tell these people what you are committed to doing for them. Don't you tell them why you joined Ariix. I want you to tell them what you will do, and they did, and they knocked it out of the park. All right? In other words, what are they responsible to you for? You see this as a culture difference? Do you see this is not like other companies that are going to tell you they can terminate you or they can change a comp plan? Right? These are people committed to you. Then you're going to learn about the product philosophy. Then you're going to learn about your industry. If you can't describe what a difference in the pyramid scheme is, number one, you could become one just because of the way you talk. And so you got to know what the difference is. And then also for you to be able to differentiate it for your prospects. You got to know what inviting is all about, how to do it right. It's basically a 6-step formula. You greet the person, you then qualify them to find out that what they need, want, and don't want, and then you're going to invite them to look at something that will help them get what they need, want, or don't want. And then you're going to close them into an action step of some kind, whether it's to watch a video or come to a meeting with you or whatever it is. And then you're going to follow up or follow through with that person until they get what they need and want, or they tell you to go away. Right? No or go away. So that's inviting, and presenting is pretty much the same thing. You just greet, you qualify, you present, and then you do all the other steps. You got to know how to generate leads, because that is one of the Achilles heel in this industry. Is people do not, if they have an empty basket of people to talk to, then their paycheck basket is empty, right? Marketing campaigns, the reason it has a dotted line around the outside of it is that that's what we're working on right now, is coming up with those masterful campaigns that work. And then when we've got some that are working very well, I just haven't had the time to stop long enough to video any of these things and throw it up there. And so, and then the know how to train is the last one, and that is that I want you doing these drills after I teach you by doing drills with you. I want you to be the drill facilitator instead of the gentleman who stands up on the stage or the lady who stands up on the stage and waves their hand and says, I did it, so can you. That's not training. All you've done, if you go to a training like that, is prove that you can sit on your butt and watch somebody talk on a stage. That does not mean that you can do it. And so I like to take it to the level of doing it. Speaking of doing it, I have put together with your great leadership, and man, I'll tell you, you guys have got some of the greatest leaders I've ever seen in this industry. All right, I really have been impressed. And so, what we're doing here is an all-out blitz. We're going every single day, twice a day, once at noon Eastern Standard Time. We do a conference call just on your lunch break, just for 20, 25 minutes, and then we come back in and we do this webinar at night. And this webinar is it's kind of unique. I pretty much made it for you guys because I wanted to put some training elements as well as some business elements. It's a big education on the industry, because I want you guys to make wise decisions with where you're going to park your truck, you know, and because I don't want you to repeat what you might have already gone through before. And so that's my real intent here. And so we're going to do this. We've got another week to basically for the next 2 weeks we're doing it, and then we're going to hit the road. And I've grabbed the corporate staff, and we are going to travel to the cities that you see listed in red. And we're going to Columbus, Ohio. And then we're going to Nashville, Tennessee. Then we're going to Greensboro, North Carolina, and then to Orlando to do a Spanish version with Guillermo. And then we're going to do a English version. And then we're going to all meet in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay? So that's what the plan is. Now, you've got an option right now. You can wait. You can sit on your backside and wait for us to come into town, or you can say, whoa, I learned more just now than I have in any other time, and so I think this thing is a go, and so why don't I get some of my people there when they fly into town? In fact, why don't I get some of my people on the conference calls and get them on the webinars, and so that they can listen to this and see if it sounds as logical as it does to you. And so then that way you're booming your team, and you're going to be able to get trained, because when we come down to Atlanta, we're going to do a similar thing. If anybody's got an interest in doing the event up in Park City, just go to SlenderEyesTraining.com, and you can register for that. But also we're going to be in Atlanta, Georgia first, and then after we do the event in April. Okay, so it goes in terms of big events, all-day training, all-day Saturday trainings. We're going to do it in Atlanta, Georgia on the 16th of March, and then we're going to do it on the 26th of April in Park City, Utah, and both of those are Slender Eyes. And then in June, we're going to be doing a big event in San Diego that's going to be for purity. So for those people who want to focus on purity, we're going to be doing a big event out there at that time. And so I think you can kind of see the culture that we're creating and how we're going about it. So let me tell you about the various different exploratory packs if you're looking at the business. Now, the first two I'm going to show you is kind of what we've been doing as a group once we got SlenderX in our hands, and it's not been that long. We do the business pack, and that business pack basically has a cross-section of products in there, not everything, but a cross-section of products, primarily the nutrition and the SlenderX. And that sells for about $700. And so we always, in any business environment, business owners always want to know what is their ROI. You know, if they have to invest amount of product and effort, when do they break even? And so we've got that at 6. Okay, and so when you sell 6 of those packs, the same as you, then you make $750. We got a bigger pack, and this is more of a mall pack, and that one's got the purity in it, a lot of all the other products, and that one's at $12.50. You get 2 extra pay lines with that. You know how I've showed up a peace sign? Well, when you get that pack, they're going to give you actually 4 lines that you can build on, and so that's quite a benefit there. And that one's at $12.50. You sell 4 of those, and you make your money back. And then we went to the company and asked them to do a special favor if somebody has been in Fortune High Tech, and they came up with 2 packs. One of them is called a member pack here, and the cost on that's $329. And there's a $25 what we call an ASAP bonus. It's kind of like a fast start bonus that you get on each one of those. But what they did is that they trimmed down the price of that. They cut the price down by $117. And so so you don't get as much profit running up the tree if that's the case. And so basically they sacrificed to get a lower entry cost instead of doing a commission out on that. But there is the $25. Okay. And then and this one is the one that all the people who were over in Slenderize who realized what we were doing with this, it was me and Mark Wilson. We were on an airplane flying out to Atlanta when we came up with this. And now everybody else who was in the company is like, hey, we want that. And here's what it is that you get 5 SlenderX, and the actual price, I had somebody call me today and say, I don't understand, it's less than you said it was. It's actually about $499, but by the time you pay tax and everything, then it comes to right around $500, $515, $520, something like that by the time it gets delivered. And so what you've got is that you've got 5 SlenderX in that package. You get all of your, kind of your entry things. You get your BOSS training. The BOSS stands for Business Orientation System. That was all those orange squares that I showed you. You get a 2X membership. I'll explain that to you at another time. But it's free. You don't have to pay $150 extra. And then you get an extra pay line. So when you hold up the peace sign, instead of 2, you get 3 of them. Okay. And then there's a savings of $180 in that. Your cost, like I said, was around $499, but by the time it's delivered, it's around $500. Now, get this. First one you're going to use, the one that's got the blue open box to it, you're going to use that one. You're going to get your own success story out of it, right? But you're going to sell the other 4, because I'm sure you can find 4 people who need to lose weight or who want to do a beta test of a new product that just launched in the homeopathic world, right? In other words, it's so easy. I got 4 customers just flying out to Atlanta to talk to you guys, to the leadership, about the company. I got back, and I'm getting, and I had already previously sold this gal on the SlenderX that cuts my hair. And so I find her a month and a half later, and I said, hey, how'd that SlenderX work out for you? And she said, Tim, look at these pants. I go, great. What? And she said, I've not been able to fit into these jeans since I had my baby. And so she was really excited. And I said, wow, you ought to sell this stuff. And she goes, no, I just suck at MLM. And I go, I didn't say anything about MLM. I said, you should sell this stuff because you make $70 every time you sell one of these. And she goes, get out. And I go, yeah, right? Now let me make a big point here. It's not only will the product sell outside the network, but does the company reward you for selling outside the network? And the company does that. And just in case you think, well, I wouldn't be able to sell them on the product. Yeah, you will. All right, I'll tell you exactly how I do it. I'm sitting next to a gentleman. He creates call centers for Delta. or runs them. And so, you know, he asked me what I did, and I said I'm on the launch team of a homeopathic weight loss product that helps people lose, you know, up to 20, 30 pounds a month. And he goes, well, you got my interest. How much does it cost, right? That's what he said, and I'll never, it just hit me right there. I go, you know what I want you to do? I want you to reach and grab a hold of that stuff you want to lose. All right, well, it was right in front of him, so he didn't have to go very far. So he reached down and he grabbed it. And I go, you got a hold of that stuff? And he goes, yeah. And I go, how much did it cost you to put that on? And he laughs, and he goes, $75 last night. I go, exactly. So you've probably got a few $1,000s invested into that. If you think about all those Cold Stones, all those times you've eaten Five Guys, all that stuff, right? So you've got a lot invested there. He goes, yeah. I go, so you're not going to be shocked when I tell you that it's going to cost you $150 to lose some of that. And he goes, oh, man, no problem at all. Right? So I just trained you on exactly how you're going to sell those 4. And when you sell those 4, you've broken even. You've broken even. So your return on investment was inside of a month. Okay? In fact, it could be inside 2 days, really, because that's how long I proved that I could do it, just flying back and forth to see you guys. So there you have how we start. And so now what are you going to do once you get those 4 people? All right? Well, you're kind of their coach. And so there's a little brochure that comes in that little gold pack, and you're going to rip that thing out. You're going to read it and read it and read it, and you're going to follow it exactly, because those 4 people that you just sold that product to, you are going to be their coach. And you've got to know what you're talking about, right? Well, everything you need to know is right inside that brochure, even the plateau breaker. Somebody loses 6 pounds in the first week and says, I stopped losing weight. You say, great, and you go to the plateau breaker, and it tells you exactly what to do, okay? So you're going to do this for people. You're going to be their coach. And along the way, you're going to see 1 or 2 of those people, maybe all of them, who just do it. They get it done. They don't make excuses. They get it done. And so then you're going to say, man, you ought to be a coach. You're better at this than I am, right? And you've just planted the seed. And so that when they go to give you referrals, you can say, you know what, I can be their coach, but you know as well as I do, you be their coach. I'll give you the commission. And so you can make $70 on each person. Do you see how that is? That's the way it works. That's the way a legitimate, organic, growing network marketing business works. It works because you make someone's life better. That's the reason that it works. It does not work when you seduce somebody into the business because of a business proposal. I'm not saying that there are not legitimate mall sellers who realize the big picture of this and can go out and they can show people the whole concept of this company and have people buy that elite pack so that they can try all the products and go out and sell the whole mall. I'm not saying that at all. But not everybody is a mall seller. And it is the recognition of that that has had much to do with my success. Is to let that person get success on the product, and then let that person get success as a coach, and then let that person as a coach help somebody else do that. And you'll watch them just like grow like a well-fertilized plant. All right, that's really what I've seen, and that's the kind of training that I love to deliver. It's the kind of techniques that I love to deliver. And gosh, do I owe you guys an acknowledgement. You've sat here this whole time, and you've listened attentively. I've got this little thing over here on my inside of this meeting, organizing things, software, and it tells me how attentive you guys have been. In other words, did you pop up other screens in front of this one and things like that? And you guys have been on it like blue bonnet, man. I'm telling you, never seen anything like it. And you guys have stayed on. And so I appreciate you. You're hungry to learn, and I see that. And so I'm very, very impressed. I look forward to working with you if you do choose us. And if you don't choose us, it's all right. Okay? You know, go out and enjoy what you do, because I love anybody who has a dream. I love anybody who chooses network marketing as their profession. If we don't get you, maybe we'll get you next time or something like that, because I assure you we will still be here. All right? I want to look through real quick here. I've got some questions that have come in. Is the company publicly traded? No, and we do not have the intention to become publicly traded. Who owns the company? The company is owned equally by a group of the executives that I showed you pictures of. And then the company has allocated. They asked me if I wanted to become a shareholder, and I told them, no, I don't. Now, they looked at me like, what's wrong with you? And I said, look, guys, my team that I will build will not look at me the same if I get my compensation in a different way than what they get their compensation. And so I need to be just like them. When I bought my starter kit, I pulled out my credit card, and I paid for it. I'm not going to take a buy-in because that cheapens me. I would not have the confidence to tell you that you should come in on an elite pack. I couldn't have done it, all right, if I didn't, or the Blitz pack or whatever else, okay? And so what they did instead of giving me the shares is that they carved out a group share, if you will, and that was the people who get them there. In other words, the people who make them big, in other words, the leaders, then they are going to allocate basically, if you look at it, the evenness of whatever they make, they're going to share with the company, with this group called the Founders Team. It's not a good old boys club. You got to earn it, as well as you got to be ethical because it's by invitation. And so they're not going to just say, hey, this guy, raped and stole downline from other sideline members. He has closed meetings. He does all these kind of things that are not for the greatest good for the company. And so we're not going to invite that person. And so then that team is shared. So no, it's not publicly traded, and it will not be. And the ownership is made up of those people right there, the pictures that I showed you. And then could you please go over our personal websites? Okay. You get your own websites, and you drive traffic there. In some other training, I'll go into more of the detailed kind of things. Maybe if I can, I'll go into it in Atlanta. And I know that we're putting together a team call for everybody so that they can help train you on that as well at the corporate office, so the back office guys. And then is there a place you can go to order business cards? Yes, it's in your back office. I believe that it is in the first screen you go to. There's a thing there, I believe, order products, and I think it's in that back section. But just call customer service. If you go to Ariix and hit contact, just call customer service and ask them that, and they'll tell you. Great. Well, thank you for telling me I did a great job. And then, are all the products gluten-free? I am pretty sure that Deanna Latson would not have put gluten in any of the products. I know that the Pure Nourish is a nutrition shake that has no dairy, and it's made from a pea protein, and somehow she made that taste good. Well, that's relative, right? You might not agree with me. And then I learned a lot in the last 2 hours. Well, Jerry, that is my mission in life, is just to make people's lives better, and that is the truth. And and then the last person, Tammy, says, thanks so much. And Tammy, back to you, and to all of you, thank you so very much for spending your time on the phone with me. I consider it quite a compliment that you would have stayed on and listened to me this entire time, and I appreciate you so very much. I look forward to working with you. And I should look forward to shaking your hand. I hope you're in one of these tours, one of these cities that we go to, because I can't wait to shake your hand or hug your neck. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Again, I appreciate you all being here. Bye-bye.